Today's episode of the GoldCast is sponsored by the return of the chef, the return of the baby-faced assassin, the return of Steph Curry. Let's go. We're going to talk about it after once we get into this episode, and then that's what we're starting with, and then what we're getting into. Oh, y'all ready for this? After that, we're getting into the 4 wide receivers. There are 4 wide receivers that we want to focus on. The 49ers spotlight. 3 of them are on the team. 1 of them is off the team, but it's not currently on the roster, and we're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the fate of 4 wide receivers and the 49ers. That is after we just do a little shout out to our boy, Steph Curry. All right, here we go. Raymond, before we get started, why don't you let them know where can they find the GoldCast?
You can always like us on Facebook.com/TheGoldCast, and you can follow us on Twitter at @the_Goldcast, and be sure to subscribe to us via Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Stitcher, all under the same moniker of The GoldCast. Like, subscribe, and comment because we love to hear from you.
That's right. Don't forget, we are moving on up. So what we're looking for from all the GoldCast Nation, do us a favor. Help us out. We're about to be on every podcast platform you can think of. And so what we need is your help, and help spread the word by doing a couple things. Liking, subscribing, giving us 5 stars on any of the rating platforms. Whatever platform you get us on, hit the 5 stars. If they have 1,000 stars, hit the 1,000-star button. If they have 2,000 stars, hit the 2,000-star button. If they have 49 buttons for the 49ers, hit the 49 button. Do us whatever it takes. Help spread the word, because as you are seeing, the GoldCast is growing. And oh, boy, there's a lot coming down the pipeline, like a lot, very, very quickly. We already kind of hinted at some of this. It's on the way. It's almost here. So help us out. Spread the word. Raymond, where can they find you?
You can always find me on Twitter at Ray Solis and on Instagram at RaySolis1.
And you can find me on Instagram at RudySolis3 and Twitter at RudySolis3RD. Yo, Curry's back. Yo, 4 wide receivers and the fate of the 49ers hangs in the balance. This is another GoldCast episode, baby. We're back. Class is in session. Let's go.
San Francisco, are you ready? Are you ready? This is the GoldCast.
Boom! Welcome to another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis the First, baby.
Boom. Raymond, they call him the baby-faced assassin. Steph Curry is the greatest three-point shooter this league has ever seen. First and only unanimous MVP. There's no other unanimous MVP. I just said that and then I completely self-doubted myself after I said.
There's been back-to-back MVPs, but I think he's the first unanimous.
I know for sure he's the first, but I think he might be the only since then. It doesn't matter. You know what? In my world, he's the only unanimous MVP. And all of a sudden, Steph is ready to go. Apparently, he's coming back. He's coming back this Sunday. Allegedly. So, everyone's pumped about the return of Mr. Steph Curry, but it is alleged. Because even as of today, Steve Kerr is saying he isn't fully sure if he's back. But, of course, we want Steph Curry back. Of course we do. Everyone does. But we're not entirely sure if this is going to happen. Raymond, what are your thoughts? This is a tough one because we're basically just going on. We've all these reports saying Steph Curry is back. The Chef Curry RD is back. And then we got Steve Kerr saying, whoa, pump the brakes. We'll just see how it all has to play out. I think he needs some more scrimmage time. We don't have much time to do it with all of our games.
Yeah.
So we have to see.
I like how the return to play against the Wizards on Sunday was, quote, news to us, according to Kerr. So it's like, so who the hell said that Curry was going to play on Sunday and then brought it up to Steve Kerr to the point where he was surprised about it? It's so weird how that stuff circulates and gets regurgitated to people.
Well, and the question is, here's the question. Did Steph Curry, did his camp leak this out? Did his camp leak this out because they're kind of trying to but I'm saying you got to think about this. Who does this benefit, right? So let's just say behind the scenes Curry wants to play, the Warriors front office doesn't want him to. So Curry's like, "But I'm ready to go." But they're like, "No, it's all good." So then he leaks that he's actually going to play. They leak it to get all the to get everyone pumped, to get the fans behind them, and to kind of force the front office to let him play because he's telling them ready, but maybe the Warriors are saying they don't feel like he's ready. Could be a little bit of that. That's happened before. That's a common thing.
Could be, but Curry's never been that kind of pro. He's not a LeBron guy that leaks stuff. He's not a Chris Paul guy that leaks stuff. He's not a there's lots of guys that are leaky. Curry's never really struck me as, a leaky player whose camp will leak stuff in order to gain leverage in any one particular. I mean, hey, things can change and people can evolve, but Curry's been, remarkably consistent with his public persona, his on-court persona, his off-court persona, and his relationship with teammates and coaches. So I just have a hard time believing that one, but it's not out of the realm of possibility because we know for a fact somebody leaked something because Kerr was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? I think he needs more time. And Kerr did say that he's perfectly healthy and that he's in the prime of his career, and they also said, he knows they're not going to the playoffs, and they're not trying to not entertain fans. They're trying to sell tickets, and who wouldn't want to see the most, quote, amazing, graceful, exciting basketball players on earth, and Steph Curry is one of them. So if he were healthy, Kerr said, if he were healthy and we didn't present him to our fans and say, here you go, here's your gift for staying with us the whole season, what would that say about us? That we don't care about our fans? So he's got a point there. There is that element of sports because it is a form of entertainment and athletics, although it's probably entertainment first, athletics second, based on, the exchange of money. So, but yeah, I think we probably, if you're a betting man, do you think we see him on Sunday? Do you say I go with the rumor and yup, he will be there, or do you say maybe not so much after this interaction with Kerr?
In a post-torn Achilles KD world, I'm gonna say Kerr's definitely trying. Here's my thing. I've already hinted at this. I think Curry wants to play. I think Curry's ready to go. I think Steve Kerr and the Golden State Warriors camp are very nervous, and they just don't want anything to happen to their prizes. They've already had to see one prize go down. They don't want to have to see more. So I think this is truly... Screw it. I'm going to say it. I think he plays. Let's go with it. I'm going to say he plays. It makes me excited. I'm going with he plays. Steph Curry, we'll see you on Sunday, baby. Warriors, here we go. Back in the... Oh, you want to know something dope? Can I tell you something dope? This is completely off topic. But here was the dopest part about the game that they had the other day against, I believe it was New Orleans, I think it was what it was. The best part was that it said San Francisco Warriors in the center of the court. Did you see that?
I did not see that. I have to go back and look at it.
Oh, my God. They were wearing the yellow jerseys. It said San Francisco across the chest. And, of course, it says San Francisco on the right side of the court all the time. Every time they're over there, you can always see the San Francisco. It says San Francisco. But it said San Francisco Warriors in the court, in the center of the court. and then they were all wearing their San Francisco jerseys. I was like, oh, my God, I would trade Golden State just for them to say San Francisco Warriors. I would. I'm sorry. It's so selfish. I can't help it. We just lost half the GoldCast subscribers. They just were like, hey, screw you. No, come back. We're serious. No, come back. It's okay. It's Golden State. Come back. But I'm going to go with it. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with it. Chef Curry! So I've been yelling his name a lot in this episode. I'm very excited at the prospect of being back. I just want to see one of them play. I just want one of the Splash Brothers. You said he hasn't been very leaky, and I'm going to say he's probably the leakiest player ever. He's a Splash Brother. Ding! Dun-dun-dun. You saw what I did there. What about you, Raymond? You're a betting man. What are you going to say? He plays, or yes or no? You're going to be our final verdict before we move on.
I don't think he plays.
Oh, wow!
I think they slow play him because they don't have a lot of games left because playoffs are starting soon.
Yeah, but playoffs aren't still till we still got about a month and a couple weeks. And usually playoffs are right about middle of the way.
Yeah, because college has to conclude their tournament before NBA's tournament.
Yeah, it's like the NBA playoffs always begin right about middle of April. It's in between the 14th and the 16th. It's always somewhere in there. You know what I mean?
I do. I just don't think he plays. At least not, and part of me is kind of fed into the Steve Kerr reaction, you know, but Kerr's pretty, and even in that same report, he seems pretty open to also giving some seniority to Curry. Hey, if Curry wants to play, he might have that authority. He might just overrule what we think if he's really truly healthy and ready to go and cleared, which it seems like he is pretty darn close to being, if not already. So there is that.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, what say you, GoldCast Nation? Rudy Solis III, he says, we're going to see Curry. Raymond Solis I, he says, we ain't going to see Curry. So which is it? We going to see him or we ain't? Let us know at youtube.com/thegoldcast.
I also think he calls a lot of his own shots, too. He's like a LeBron.
I mean,
he's like a LeBron, a Kobe, a Shaq, those guys who are, by their
a KD.
Yeah, a KD who can just kind of say and do what they want. I mean, it is that NBA is very much a player's sport.
Yeah, I mean, one guy changes the whole makeup of a team, in a way that it doesn't work on baseball or football. All right. Speaking of football, Raymond, we have 4 wide receivers right now. 3 that are on the team, 1 that is not.
This is the talk of the week right now.
It is the talk of the week. What are the 49ers going to do with this wide receiver core? Right now we have $13 million in cap space, and they do believe that the 49ers are going to restructure and get somewhere around 20. But that doesn't mean that it's not like that. That 20 is not a lot in cap space. So let's talk a little bit about, we're going to start with 3 players that are on the team. Number 1, Dante Pettis. Dante Pettis was in the news this week because Mr. Kyle Shanahan, by the way, you and I talked about this off air. I want to talk about it on air. Why does Kyle Shanahan dress like a G?
Because he's a hip hop kid.
He's got the hat. If you see him at the combine, yeah, the hat hella low, just above the eyebrows, the windbreaker jacket, the windbreaker pants, kind of slightly baggy,
and everything matches. His shoes with his hat and his jacket and his pants. He's got black, gray, and white going on. He's got freaking Raiders colors, for God's sakes.
What I'm wondering is yo, Shanahan, when are you going to drop that verse? When are you going to get on E40's deep cut of Bang Bang Niner games? Show us a verse. Hey, Machine Gun Kelly at Mac Miller, Eminem, give us something, bro. Come on, throw a verse out. Don't be scared. Anyways, all right, let's go back to this. Dante Pettis. This is the first. This I'm gonna say for the record, as a person who cannot play professional football, I have never been super impressed with Pettis. We talked a lot about his size being a factor on Monday's episode of the GoldCast. He was drafted with the hopes of him being a season one impact player. He had some flashes, he had some streaks, and I said this earlier in the week. I really, when I think impact season one, I think of someone like Cooper Kupp with the LA Rams and Deebo Samuels with the San Francisco 49ers this season. These are guys that had that first season rookie impact where you immediately saw their ability. Now, Deebo didn't come on immediately. It took him a little bit of a while to get used to the speed, but once he did, he really broke out. And I feel like for 2 seasons, we've just keep waiting for Dante Pettis to break out. In fact, not only are we waiting, Kyle Shanahan's waiting. He said he wants Dante Pettis to go on a mission. And I'm paraphrasing the story. You can read this online. It's everywhere. But basically, Kyle Shanahan said that this is a typical thing that happens. He's seen this a lot in the sophomore season of a football player. They start in the first season. Their first season, it's pretty decent, and then they kind of have a little bit of that sophomore slump. So then what happens is that then he says one of two things happens. Either they continue down that slump and they get phased out of the league, or they take it as a growing lesson. They get back on the horse and they come back out and ball. And that's what he's hoping. He wants to see Dante Pettis come back and ball. He says, I want to see him on a mission when he comes back. So let's look at the numbers, Raymond, too. So Dante Pettis' numbers in 2018, he played 12 games and he had 27 catches, 467 yards, 5 touchdowns. 2019, 11 catches, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. A huge step back in overall production. And so what do you think about Dante Pettis? Does Dante Pettis go on this mission? Does he go on a mission and does he come back ready to go? Or do you think that he's maybe someone we have to consider letting go?
I think he's young enough that we can give him the benefit of the doubt because he's only played 2 years. You know, he's only 24, going on 25 this next year. And even though, you know, he wasn't able to capitalize on the second half of 2018, because think about it, he played in 12 games, he started 7. And of that, you know, that's minus 4 games. He got 5 scores and nearly 500 yards. So you add 6 more games into that equation. Or I'm sorry, 4. You add 4 more games in that equation. You know, there's a good chance, you know, he's creeping into the, 700, 8.
700s.
Yeah, 700, you know, with 8 scores, something like that. But, you know, we'll obviously never know. And I don't know, just something, I just feel like, you know, he's got a confidence issue, or it's either to me, it's a combination.
It feels like he's psyched out a little bit, right?
Yeah, it's a combination of confidence and, you know, perhaps commitment to football. Although I don't necessarily get the impression that he's not committed to football. To me, I kind of lean more towards, and this is kind of reading into a whole lot of nothing, because it's not like I spend time with him and I can read them, but you know, just like some of the body language and some of the reports that came out on Dante, it just seems like he's just not confident. Like he's not as confident as he was ending the 2018 season. And perhaps it's because the competition stiffened up this year. You brought in Jalen Hurd. You had Marquise Goodwin who was coming back. You brought in Emmanuel Sanders mid-season, who really kind of shook up things. Deebo Samuel really came into his own. He was really kind of flashing left and right in the first half, and then the second half he really just became a bona fide, you know, legitimate weapon for defenses to pay attention to all the way up to the Super Bowl. And he was terrific in the Super Bowl, by the way. And so I think and Dante was a healthy scratch, you know. It's not like he couldn't play. They just didn't want him to.
Yeah, and that's really the bottom line. Obviously, is that while his confidence has been diminished in this season, the Niners' confidence in him is diminished as well, and that's a tough part. I think Dante Pettis is a wait and see. I have no idea what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he is not in a 49ers uniform this coming season. All right, next up, a little bit higher up the depth chart as far as overall production since he's been with this team. Our boy, Marquise Goodwin. Marquise Goodwin, 2018, 23 catches, 395 yards, 4 touchdowns after his big, stellar 2017 season. 2019, 12 catches, 186 yards, 1 touchdown. He played for 11 games. He played 11 games in 2018, 9 games in 2019. And clearly you saw the impact of these other wide receivers diminishing his look. I think Marquise Goodwin really is best suited for like a wide receiver 3 role. He's very fast, obviously, really good north-south, and it's the kind of wide receiver. He reminds me of like a Brandon Cooks, where for the Rams, where he's the kind of guy that I think in an ideal world has 4 catches for 75, 85 yards and 1 touchdown pass, and like that's kind of where he's at. He's the kind of guy in fantasy where you plug him in at your flex spot because you know that like he's guaranteed to get close to between 75 and 100 yards and at least 1 touchdown. And every 4 or 5 games, he's going to give you a real big game. He'll give you 100 and 120 yards for 2 touchdowns, and really pull you in. Like he's that kind of fantasy player. He's the kind of guy that's the kind of overall production I think he's capable of. But clearly, there's been a lot of off the field issues. We know that I'll let you get into that. I think have really impeded his progress, and I think sometimes there's a question of just how committed he really is to football. I mean, this guy's an Olympic track star, right? And that's also a part. That was something else he was trying to get done at the same time. And football's as we've both talked about before. Football is the type of sport we really need to. This really needs to be the end all be all. So where do you see Marquise Goodwin? What are your thoughts on Marquise Goodwin going into this new 2020 season?
Well, to me, like the reports that have come out this week, I feel like he's a bargaining chip at this point. He's too valuable to just let him go. So I think what you need to do is, releasing him is not an option, but we need draft capital. So trading him for, a 3rd rounder, maybe. I mean, that's something that could possibly happen. You're not getting a 1st or a 2nd for him, that's for sure. But I think you might be able to get a 3rd, 4th, or even a 5th. Or maybe 2 5ths. Who knows? It depends what the production isn't there for much. I'd say he's worth maybe a pick at best. And yeah, part of the issue is that he's not been super committed to football, and it's not a bad thing. He's been trying to have a kid. That's a legitimate thing. And the loss of his child in 2017 was a huge motivating factor for him nearly getting 1,000 before getting that concussion in that Rams game, which derailed that effort. But he was a just incredible possession receiver in that season. 56 balls. He was targeted over 105 times. He didn't necessarily get into the end zone a whole lot, but he racked up 962 yards. He was terrific in 2017. And that second half was with Jimmy. So I think, but yeah, it just seems like he's gotten over, he's missed games and practice for personal reasons, which I'm pretty sure have to do with that deal. If I was a betting man, I know he finally did give birth to a baby girl this offseason.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, this is amazing. Congratulations to him and the Goodwin family. And maybe that's something, if he doesn't end up trading, maybe because he has a healthy baby now, maybe he can focus more on that. Or maybe it's the opposite, where it's like, hey, I want to focus on kind of being there for my new baby daughter. Maybe it plays the opposite. I'm hoping it's like, now that you've gotten over the psychological hump of being able to procreate successfully, that it relieves some mental stress to focus on your job. But if not, then I could totally see him going somewhere and us getting like a 3rd, 4th, or 5th for him. One or the other. I don't necessarily know if he's worth more than 1 pick, unless, I could be wrong. There's lots of teams out there that are willing to do all kinds of crazy trades, and the Niners have been, for the most part, the benefactors of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think a 3rd round pick would be really good. We only have 1 pick in the first 4 rounds here, and so we are in dire need of more picks. And a 3rd round pick would be awesome. If not, I really want to see him slip into that Sammy Watkins, Brandon Cooks role. You know what I mean? That's really where I want to see him get into. That's where I want to see. I think he's capable of it, and I think he could be really good at that spot. But, again, we just have to see where the focus is. All right. Our next wide receiver. My boy. My boy. Emmanuel Sanders. Manny Sanders' son? My dude. Love this guy. Immediate impact. What can we say? Balling out. Literally, from the moment he showed up, he opened up the entire passing game and really allowed Jimmy G to flourish. And it was just a huge cog. Kyle Shanahan said he doesn't believe they get to the Super Bowl without him and that he wants him back on the team so badly. But, of course, Emmanuel Sanders is an unrestricted free agent and will command a pretty nice little salary. For some desperate team is going to give him a lot of money. It's just a matter of the 49ers are willing to match and what they're willing to match for. And if he's willing to come back in at a possibly reduced rate to stay on a super caliber willing team like the 49ers. Who knows, man? You never know. Like you could see the Patriots try and throw some money at him to get him for Tom Brady. Who knows? But here we go. Last year, Case Keenum under center, he had 71 catches, 868 yards, 4 touchdowns, started in 12 games. 2019, here are his totals. 66 this is for the Broncos and the Niners. 66 catches, 869 yards, 5 touchdowns, 16 games played, all 16. But let's look at his 49er production. 36 catches, 502 yards, 3 touchdowns, 10 games. I mean, what an amazing production. What value coming from a system, coming from Denver, coming into a new system, new quarterback, and was plug and play. Not many guys can do that. Emmanuel Sanders and Jimmy G obviously had a great connection. You know, Jimmy G doesn't overthrow that ball by about 5 yards. We're probably lifting Lombardi right now and talking about what a beautiful feeling, the quest for 6 being done. And we're talking about a quest for 7. It came that close, and it came down to the wire to those 2 players. So where do you feel, Raymond? What do you feel about Emmanuel Sanders? Is he going to come back? Can we afford him? What's just your overall thoughts on this current situation? And on a scale of 1 to 10, start with this. How nervous are you?
I don't know if Sanders comes back because the budget's really tight this year. This is the first season in the John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan regime where they're going to have to get a little bit more creative with the budget. And it's going to involve losing some pieces in order to retain some more important pieces. And don't forget about Kendrick Bourne, who was way more productive than some of the receivers we've already gone through with Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin. Kendrick Bourne was, a terrific player all last year, and he's going to become, a free agent too. So, but he's a restricted free agent, so that's the good news with Kendrick Bourne. So he doesn't necessarily have the leverage. So I think, because he's young, you're gonna have to bring him back. But there's also Jalen Hurd, who I'm very, very excited about. I'm really, really excited about him. And we'll briefly mention him because he was in the news this week for good reasons, by the way. And that's something to consider too. But he's signed, but Kendrick Bourne is not signed. And Kendrick Bourne was more productive than the aforementioned players that we've already spoken about. So the question is, who's more important? I think what you got to do, to me, the ultimate is you got to trade Marquise Goodwin for something. And you've probably got to re-sign Kendrick Bourne because he was more productive and seems like the will and the commitment is there. And Emmanuel Sanders, it's kind of a 50-50. We might keep him, but we might lose him to free agency because someone just might pay more money and he just might be willing to go for that money at this stage in his career. He might have to think that. It's a legitimate shot.
It is a legitimate shot. I could definitely see him. Yeah, it really comes down to this. Does Emmanuel Sanders want to win or does he want the money? But there's also a chance I hate to admit it, like New England was the first thing that came to my mind, right? Like they probably could buy him and bring him in for Tom Brady, right? Because he needs more weapons, right? And so that's a place I could see him ending up, is somewhere like that. So Emmanuel Sanders is the wild card, and a lot rests on him. And, here's the problem with the 49ers just in general, now that we're wrapping up the three that are on the team, and then we're going to talk about one that is not on the team. The problem with the 49ers is there's a lot of potential, but not a lot of facts, right? Not a lot of numbers to really back up what these guys can do on a consistent basis. Pettis, very streaky. Sophomore slump, still young. Marquise Goodwin, streaky as well. A lot of family stuff, not really quite sure where he's going to land. Emmanuel Sanders, not streaky. The man, ready to go. Can we afford him? Deebo Samuels, great rookie season. Is he going to continue on this road, or is he going to have a Dante Pettis season? What about Jalen Hurd? Still haven't really seen much from him. So there's a lot of questions around the 49er wide receiver core, and we all know that while this run game has been fantastic, Shanny wants to air the ball out, and then that's what we're going to need. We're going to need to start moving to a more productive air attack, and we need Jimmy G to really begin to take that step of carrying the game at that level on a more consistent basis. We win, but at the same time, this is where the NFL is, and this is what we have to evolve to, and it'd be great to see Emmanuel Sanders. I am nervous, but my hope and desire is that he's on the team. I'm not going to make a prediction. All right. This last one is a guy that has been rumored for quite some time as a possibility, Mr. A.J. Green. Now, I drafted A.J. Green in Louis B., our Los Angeles co-host. Louis B. and I's our league of record here in Los Angeles are the league that we've been together in for like 6 or 7 years now. And I drafted A.J. Green in, I think, the 7th round. And I thought, you know what? I still regretted it. I didn't feel like I was getting the value that I really wanted, but I was like, screw it. Let's do it. I still thought, if he can play at the level that he's capable of, this will end up being worth it. And Adrian got hurt and didn't play the rest of the season. So that was a complete waste of a pick. But let's talk about his 2018 season. He played in 9 games, 46 catches, 694 yards, 6 touchdowns. That is pretty damn good when you think about, let's look at I like the 6 touchdowns in 9 games. It's almost a touchdown a game. I love that. Almost every other game, basically. He's basically every other game he's making a touchdown. 694 yards in 9 games. Excellent production. I mean, that's 100, almost 100, and that's 100, about 168 yards less than Emmanuel Sanders, but with twice 2 less games. So he plays 2 more. There's probably a chance he's over him at that point. And he did that in 46 catches. I'm comparing 2018 Emmanuel Sanders to 2018 A.J. Green. 46 catches, 694 yards, 6 TDs versus Emmanuel Sanders, 71 catches, 868 yards. It took Emmanuel Sanders almost 30 more catches to produce 168 more yards. That's very impressive. Very impressive, A.J. Green, but obviously hurt all last year. Raymond, this is a wild card that's been thrown out. What are your thoughts on Mr. A.J. Green?
I think it's, the production's there. He's a 7-time Pro Bowler. He's outside of a couple of injury-riddled seasons. He probably would have been similar production to, maybe not on the same volume as an Antonio Brown, but definitely the same consistency as an Antonio Brown, because he's just been great. And that's on a team with a kind of average to above average on occasion quarterback play in Cincinnati. So imagine him with stellar quarterback play. That just really kind of elevates his game, which is why, Antonio Brown's been playing with a Hall of Fame quarterback over there, and you can see the difference in volume, but the consistency is very similar outside of injury. But, the issue I've got is he's missed a lot of games in this latter half of his career, and health is a big concern, and he's 32, and he's a big guy. Well, he's gonna turn 32 this summertime, but he's missed like 29 games since 2016. That's a lot.
And
that's like 2 seasons worth.
Yeah, and it just drives me nuts, man. I'm just also tired of seeing the 49ers take these flyers on injuries. I mean, Jason Verrett, right, the cornerback, it was like 20 minutes and boom, he's gone. I'm just like, oh, God, I don't like this bulky-esque flyers on a torn ACL. Can I tear my ACL and go sign up for the Niners and get $1 million? Because like I feel like that's like a thing we can do. That's an excellent investment. I will gladly tear my ACL. I will get on a ladder, jump off the ladder, and land on my right leg and just let it go. And just give me $1 million. I'll sign up for the Niners. It's a wonderful investment opportunity here. I'm just tired of us doing that. And I want to believe in AJ Green, but I don't believe in the curse of the Niners when it comes to these kinds of things. You know what I mean? Like the Niners have not really. This is really the only one who's panned out. Richard Sherman. And dividends, but Richard Sherman is not just anybody. He is a top tier Deion Sanders-esque level cornerback. You know what I mean? This is not just anybody here. He's got a mental fortitude and a level of resiliency that 90% of the league doesn't have. So you know he's a special case. But a lot of these other guys, it just doesn't work out. You know what I mean?
And Green's going to be it does, but I mean, like it's worked out, but it's also it's hit and miss. I think in this case, I think it was mostly miss in the Trent Baalke era, with the exception of like 2011 through 2013. But after that, it just seemed to be strikeout after strikeout, just a horrible, streak of misses, just to the point where the team really suffered. And in this regime, it's kind of been a little hit and miss. I would say. It was definitely a hit with Richard Sherman, although we had to kind of eat a couple years of mediocrity before we saw the dividends of that, although he played pretty solid last year. This year he was really back into form.
It's a 2-year injury. That's the problem.
And,
it really is.
To be honest, Quan Alexander was excellent up until the injury, and then his presence was definitely welcomed, but he certainly wasn't the same player, which is probably why he opted to do the surgery in the offseason. Just to get back to 100%, because he was definitely he was playing like he wasn't 100%. The fire wasn't there, the ball instincts weren't there. He just looked off, but he was still. It's still nice to have the entire defense intact, just because I think it was very key in getting us to the Super Bowl. But who else? Who else was there? There was our center. Our center, I know he got injured and ended up missing the rest of the season, but he's been mostly great for the most part. But that's the problem. You buy these veteran players, and health is an injury you're gonna have to deal with. Marquise Goodwin was a veteran when we brought him in for the 3 years for like $18 million. He was terrific in the first year, and just has really kind of trailed off in these latter 2 years. Jerick McKinnon, another one. We spent a ton of money on him. Hasn't seen the field once at all in starting regular season action. However, conversely, we signed Kyle Juszczyk. He's been the best fullback in the league since we signed him. Has made the Pro Bowl every single year he's been with us, including the one he was coming off of in Baltimore. So that's been a good one. So again, I see a lot of 50-50 with these moves, and I don't see the same inconsistency that we've been getting with the Trent Baalke era. Emmanuel Sanders, another one. We took him. He was injured for a little bit, but he was mostly terrific and very instrumental in getting us to the championship. Another hit there. So there's been some good moves defensively, and offensively to get some good players, and there's also been some misses. So, but I think with AJ, it's tough because you have Jalen Hurd, who supposedly is healthy now. Jalen Hurd is healthy and expected to be back in the offseason. And by the way, guess what? AJ Green, 6'4", 210 pounds. Jalen Hurd, 6'4", 227 pounds. And Jalen Hurd has experience playing as a wide receiver and a running back. So he's got the skill sets of a dual player, which again is one of the reasons why Kyle Shanahan loved this kid, was because not only does he have size, but he has the football acumen of two positions, two very terrific position. That means that this guy has the size and skill set to be a big target wide receiver, just like an AJ Green, but also has the running capability of, a running back. That's terrific. And we saw that in one of the preseason games that he played this season, where he caught the ball and then he bull rushed 2 defenders into the end zone. I mean, the technique he used in that bull rush was very running back-esque. And then we saw him go up and leap for a ball because he's 6'4". I mean, this guy's, he's an inch smaller than Mike Evans for Tampa Bay, who's, I believe, 6'5", 231. Mike Evans is a little bit bigger, but Jalen Hurd's right there. He's right in between AJ Green and Mike Evans. This kid, if this kid can stay healthy, and he's very, very young. If he can, and he's just missed his rookie year. A lot of rookies struggle in their first year or have injuries that they can't seem to get over. But if Jalen Hurd can overcome that and start to tap into the talent that we saw a couple flashes on in the preseason, this kid is capable of becoming an AJ Green or Mike Evans type of receiver. He's got that kind of ceiling. Not only does he have the measurements, but I feel like the skill set's there. He's just got to get coached into it. And so that's the other thing too. It's like, do you take a chance on an AJ Green who's going to, probably be in a position, given his injury history being so recent, that he's going to be in more of a Richard Sherman territory where, it's kind of like a prove it contract versus like, well, we'll pay you. I mean, there's some teams that I think are going to take that risk because, a toe injury is different from an ACL tear. So I get that comparison, but at the same time, it's like, do you spend the capital necessary to get an AJ Green, or do you bank on some of your less expensive investments that are still very much unproven and still very much have, a lot of room to grow and turn into something special, especially with the way this team's put together and the philosophy there. It's something that a lot of players seem to have really latched onto. And even veteran players have seen the value in that. Quan Alexander is totally bought in. Emmanuel Sanders is totally bought in. Kyle Juszczyk is totally bought in. I mean, even Robbie Gould is totally bought in. Another veteran that we signed that was very, very productive for us. So I think if it was me, I would pass on AJ Green and bank on Jalen Hurd because he's younger. His ceiling has yet to be tapped into, but he has skill sets that can really turn him into one of the premier big target wide receivers that we already have in the NFL, such as, like an AJ Green or my personal favorite, Mike Evans.
Nice. I love it. Okay, so what say you, GoldCast Nation? What do you think about Dante Pettis, Marquise Goodwin, Emmanuel Sanders, AJ Green? Who do we keep? Should we go after AJ Green? Are you pumped about Jalen Hurd? Raymond, I am with you. I am more and more pumped on Jalen Hurd. And God darn it, you keep selling me on him every GoldCast. I'm loving this.
People forget about his size. He's the same size as AJ Green. It's the same size.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Let us know your thoughts on youtube.com/thegoldcast. We have got a mailbag coming up very, very soon. We've got a big mailbag because you guys are due, and you guys have been so fantastic in the comments, and we need to give back, Ray, and make sure that the GoldCast is heard on the podcast. So we will be coming. The mailbag is coming very soon, maybe even this Monday. Spoiler alert. All right. So let us know on youtube.com/thegoldcast what your thoughts are on Dante Pettis, Marquise Goodwin, Emmanuel Sanders, and AJ Green. So concludes another edition of the GoldCast. We are the voice of the Bay. I'm your host, Rudy Solis III, and with me is my brother, my co-host,
Raymond Solis first, baby.
Boom. We'll see you next time. Same GoldCast time, same GoldCast channel.
This is the GoldCast.